Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lunch with Vince Gill. My name is Shannon Rich, and I actually have the best gig in the entire world. I'm president and CEO of the Oklahoma Hall of Fame and the Gaylord Pickens Museum. For 94 years, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame has been telling Oklahoma's story through its people, through our award-winning publishing program, statewide education programs, and of course, the Gaylord Pickens Museum, and honoring Oklahoma's best and brightest through induction into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, our state's single highest honor. On behalf of our chairman, Bruce Benbrook, officers, directors, and staff, we're thrilled that you are with us today, literally from all over the country, and I guess the world, since Russia's joining in. Today's event was dreamed up by our Second Century Board, a group of young professionals from across Oklahoma who are dedicated to supporting the Hall of Fame's noble mission while inspiring the next generation of leaders. We appreciate all they do in helping us share amazing Oklahoma stories like the ones you're going to hear today. My moderator today for today's discussion is Michelle Sopp, the Director of Marketing and Communications for the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, go ahead and put those in the chat and she'll try to add them. And we want to thank everyone that sent your questions in advance. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our special guest of the hour. Oklahoma City's country music superstar, Vince Gill, has been in the music industry for more than 40 years. We can list all of his awards and recognitions, but that will take all day. So I'm just going to give you a couple of highlights. Over his career, Vince has recorded 20 studio albums, charted 40 singles on the US Billboard Hot Country Song charts, and sold more than 26 million albums. He's earned 22 Grammy wins, more than any other male country artist. He's also won 18 country music awards, including 2 Entertainer of the Year awards and 5 Male Vocalist awards. He's been a member of the Grand Ole Opry since 1991, and he received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2012. He was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2007, but we knew he was the best first because he was inducted into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame in 1997. In 2017, Vince replaced the late Glenn Frey as a vocalist and guitarist with this little band, I don't know if y'all have heard of it, called the Eagles, and currently tours with that band. Honestly, I can say the absolute nicest and most genuine person you will ever meet. Welcome to the one and the only Vince Gill.
Well, thank you, Shannon. It's very kind.
We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, you know, it's funny listening to that list of accolades are so kind, but the one that cracks me up is over 26 million records sold. And I tell people, I said, hadn't changed much in about 20 years.
It's a
great
feat
to be here. Yeah.
Not many people have. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. I'm good.
Your self-effacing humor. Your first line on vincegill.com is the reluctant superstar. And I will tell you that that's been the last time you were here. Once you agreed to come back and MC and sing at the Hall of Fame, we didn't really hear much from you. There was zero rider, no information. And finally I was like, hey, can we get you a hotel room? And you said, oh no, I probably shouldn't do that. If my mom hears I'm in Oklahoma City and I don't stay with her, I'm gonna get in trouble.
That's right.
Okay. So then I said, can I send a car for you? And you said, no, my best friend from high school probably just pick me up. I'm good. And then the band kept asking me what song you wanted to play. And I kept texting you. And you said, friend, why are you so worried about this? And I said, because they want to know what song they can practice to rehearse with you. And you said, I'll take care of it. I'll bring my guitar. I'm good. Yeah. And that night, and I don't know if you remember, Justice Tom Colbert was inducted, and we also inducted Ada Lois Scipio Fisher posthumously. And you told a story. I would encourage everybody, if you haven't, Google Vince Gill in the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. He performed a song called "The Price of Regret," and he says when you're opening up, you say, "I didn't really know what I was going to sing tonight, but this issue of race and the fact that my dad could go to law school and she couldn't, it spoke to you, and there was not a dry eye in the house." So talk a little bit about "The Price of Regret."
Well, just, it's a song about truth, and I finally recorded a version of that song after I came to see you guys, but it's on my last record called OKey. And it just, I find at my age at 64, I'm not afraid of telling the truth. I'm not afraid of tough conversations, of tough subjects, of all that stuff. If everybody's a little bit of a forgiving spirit and in a kindness and not a judgmental way, I think you can have these conversations. And that's it. It dawned on me as I was sitting there hearing the story of her that she wound up going to the University of Oklahoma at the same time my dad was there in law school. So who knows if they might have ever crossed paths? I wouldn't know. But anyway, it just felt like the right thing to sing. I think that's the thing I always try to do is what's appropriate. That's the way I live my life in the way that I make records is I try to play and sing what's appropriate. And I try to get the other guys to do the same thing. So that felt like the right moment for a sentiment like that. So that would probably be the reason.
It was the perfect moment. And again, I would encourage everybody to Google that and watch it because the words are compelling for sure. And the lesson learned for me there is you can come anytime you want, and you don't have to tell us anything because we literally, it was the most low maintenance experience ever. And you showed up with the guitar and then you tuned. We gave a gift to my chairman at the time of the guitar. And you said, do you want me to tune this for you? And I was like, sure. Vince Gill's back there tuning your guitar.
Yeah. I'm working to become from low maintenance to no maintenance. It's a bit of a stretch, but I'm trying.
Well, I know I wasn't with the Hall of Fame at that point when you sang that song, but I've watched it many a times as well. And it is so touching. It's a wonderful song.
Thank you very much.
I'm actually going to jump in. So we had a question already written in from one of our Second Century Young Professional board members named Andrew, and he actually is referencing your new album, OKey. And since you're saying that song's on the album, I figured I'd start with this question. He says, Vince, OKey is probably my favorite album to this point. What was your inspiration for the album?
Oh, gosh. I just think that, once again, a friend of mine called it age appropriate. I'm 64 now. And those songs felt like true thoughts of a man my age. I don't pretend to be 22 and can still jump and run around on the stage and fly through the air, any of those kinds of things. I never did much of that anyway, but all that being, is a little life under your belt, gives you a different perspective. It makes you a little less opinionated. And I think that the one thing of anything in the conversation of those songs and the writing of those songs, the point being is at no point is it judgmental. There's nothing worse than somebody telling you how you ought to think. I've never liked it. Somebody telling me how I ought to think, and so that's the point of those songs is you can talk about what this kid's going to do that with a teen pregnancy in one of the songs on the record. One song where, some of them are fiction and most of them are, to some degree. All they need is a little shred of truth in them to inspire you to tell a story and find a way to then tell a story that's engaging. That's the point of a good story is it has to have a point, And so away I went, tackling subjects like race and teen pregnancy. And there's one song on there that's like where the guy kills his own father because he's abusive to save his family. And somebody said, did that happen to you? And I said, well, of course not. No, but it has, and you see it happen in life. And once again, I think it's okay to broach the subject on some of these things. Once again, if there's a little grace and a little bit of someone not being too judgmental in them. I like to observe. I think the idea that I feel like I have in life is I observe and I write what I observe. I'm not trying to get you to think like me or vote like me or any of that stuff. That never rang my bell too much.
Yeah. Well, and following on that, what about the single Count Your Blessings? One of our staff members had asked about that because she was really moved by that. And so what was your thought behind that and recording it?
Well, my friend Rita, who's married to Tom Hanks, she's always had this lifelong dream of singing, and she was an actress for the majority of her life. And in the last few years, she's gotten the courage to go make some records. She has a really sweet voice and a compelling voice to listen to. And I sang on the first record she made. And she kind of always calls me and said, will you sing on, I'm making a new record. Will you sing on something? And that's all that was. She asked me if I'd sing on it. And I said, of course. I've never really turned anybody down. I don't know if anybody knows this or cares, but I've probably sung on over 1,000 artists' records in the last 45 years. And that's what when I was young and I was a kid back home, I was a kid that read the back of the record covers, and I'd read the credits of who played this, who sang that. And that's what I aspired to be, was one of those people, somebody that was good enough to get asked to play on other people's records.
Yeah.
I didn't have to be the front and center, front guy and main guy. So I always pointed myself towards trying to, figure out enough way to have some talent to be able to do that. And that means, in a sense, it means a little more to me, because then I serve them, and I take what my gifts are, and I do what I can to make their records better. And it's actually a harder thing to do than if you're the boss and you're the leader and you go in and you sing and you play the way you want. Everybody kind of has to follow you, and
Sure.
so you have to find your way to a company, and it's all I've ever done. I still do it, even though I've had a great streak of my own career doing very well. I never wanted to lose sight of those kind of kid dreams of working with other people, and I don't take on projects. I don't listen to them first. I get a lot of people that will call, say, "Hey, I want you to sing on my record. I'll send you the song and see if you like it." I go, "I don't care about that. It's yours." And that's not my job to be judgmental and have tell you whether it's good enough. And I don't want to ever be put in that position. So I just basically say yes to everybody.
That's such an interesting perspective, because if anyone goes to his website, the first thing it talks about is how you're a reluctant superstar. And I feel like what you just said fits so well with that, about how you're just there to lift other people up and to support.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been said, if nobody cares who gets the credit, it's amazing what you can get accomplished, And it's really
So true.
Just be kind and chip in and do your part, and try to keep your ego out of the way.
Well, the fact that you've collaborated with 1,000 artists is just mind-boggling. If you had to choose a favorite, could you choose? And I'm going to take your wife off the table, because I know you're probably going to say Amy otherwise.
It's so, what's interesting is the diversity of all of those people. It's not just country people.
Mhm.
I've sung with Diana Krall, I've sung with Barbara Streisand, I've sang with George Jones, I've sang with Merle Haggard, I've sang with a lot of great people in all genres and all walks. I played guitar on an Alice Cooper record.
Oh my gosh.
all these things that they're all kind of, they really all feel pretty equal. And I think that the ones that are special, there's some sessions over the years, a Faith Hill record called "Let Me Let Go."
I love that song.
Yeah, and I sang with her on that, and I thought I was an integral part to the record and an important part to the record. Patty Loveless's Timber, and there's a lot of things that I'm on that nobody even knows it, unless they're a crazy fan and they read the backs of record jackets like I did. And it's, once again, you don't care if you get credit for it. I mean, the best thing to do is to not stick out, because if you stick out, then all of a sudden you're distracting, so
Yeah.
you just try to be this seamless thing. I was a huge fan of family singing, like the Everly Brothers, and the way that blood blended when those two boys sang together, about the most angelic thing I've ever heard in my whole life, still to this day. And so I go, that's what I want. I want to be that harmony singer and sound that good and that tight with that guy, even though we're not related. But that's the difficulty of it, is to blend and make yourself a company, rather than show off and stick out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, since you do play guitar, like you said, on so many albums, I also read you play a variety of instruments. So how many do you play exactly? And is guitar your favorite, or are you drawn to one instrument more than the other?
Well, guitar is by far my favorite. It's the one thing I think I do best. And, a lot of times, especially in the bluegrass world, I learned to play all the stringed instruments because it was helpful. If you could, hey, can you grab a banjo and play it on this? Yeah, I can. Can you grab a mandolin and play it on this? Can you play a fiddle? I said, not very well, but that's up to you. But yeah, I just could play anything with strings, and some things much better than others. I just fancy myself a guitar player, really. The kind of dabbles on the other ones.
Well, okay, so we're going to keep on the music train for just a little bit. Okay. What do you think is your favorite song that you've written that maybe is yours that you sang, or maybe for someone else?
Oh gosh, probably Go Rest High on That Mountain after all these years, because it wasn't it wasn't the biggest hit I ever had. It wasn't the biggest selling record I ever had, but it probably had the most longevity and the most impact
Yeah.
after it did what it did. And I would say that would probably be the one song I feel connected to the deepest because of what it was about. I mean, it makes perfect sense. But, you know, the fact that people, when they're really struggling, they're going through their hardest of times, if they want something that you've done, that's the best feeling in the world. It's better than a hit song by miles and miles and miles. And it's kind of become a modern day Amazing Grace in a sense. I've had funeral directors say stuff to me like, hey, I don't mean this with any disrespect, but I swear to God, if I never hear that song again, I'll be happy.
Well, obviously it has an impact on people then if it's being played.
Yeah. You know, and
I hear it a lot.
it feels like a song that could maybe someday be in a hymnal.
Yeah.
And that would be powerful to me.
It's interesting. I was listening to someone talk about how you always hear the classic like Christmas songs or classic Christian songs, and for one of those songs to become more of a modern classic. And I do agree that that could be that song, you know, because like I would say like, you know, Mariah Carey's All Over for Christmas is probably one of those that's transitioned to more of a classic. And I agree that song could be one of those 100%.
Yeah. You know, and it's pretty neat to have come up with that, you know, so
yeah,
very proud of that.
Well, let's talk about your beginnings for a little bit. What was it like growing up in Oklahoma? What was one of your favorite memories of growing up in the state?
God, everything, you know, it's home. You know, they said, you know, Dorothy said it best in The Wizard of Oz. There's no place like home. And it's true. You know, it's just flat out true. And I get the best feeling every time I cross the border and get into my home state. You know, I loved where I grew up. I loved my family. I loved my friends. I loved the spirit of the place. Everything about it, you know, it couldn't hold me for what I wanted to do. It didn't make sense in that respect. I had to go and travel and see the world and do what I've done. But it's the greatest. I was in Norman. I was born in Norman for the first 4 years of my life. I remember nothing of that, you know, and I do have a vague memory of feeding some ducks in a little pond just east of the football stadium there at Oklahoma University. And that's about it. I have a picture of the old house that I went by and took not too long ago. And it's tiny. You know, it's a little bitty tiny place. And I'm sure it was hard for my mom and dad to get by and pay the rent and him go to law school and everything he was doing down there. And then we moved up to Oklahoma City when I was 5 and started kindergarten, went to Cleveland Elementary School, you know. And here's the coolest thing about how I grew up. My grade school I lived on 24th Street, and Cleveland was on 23rd and 24th Street. So I walked across the street for 6 years of grade school. And then Taft Junior High School was a block and a half up the street. And then Northwest Class in my high school was 3 blocks through the alley. So I was ridiculously in the most perfect location on earth to go to school. And we
Absolutely
loved it, you know? Great neighborhoods, great kids. You got together and played basketball, baseball, football. It couldn't have been more normal, you know, and public school and all of that. It was I have only great memories. You know, there were no times that were full of despair and all of that. It was always joyful.
Shannon, I think we have a question from one of our board members that you wanted to ask Vince.
Since you're talking about home, Mr. Lee Allen Smith wants to know when you are planning to move you and your beautiful bride back to Oklahoma City.
Her family's too big. We can't move.
We got plenty of room here. We got plenty of room.
You know, I was in Oklahoma for 18 years. I've been in Nashville for 38 years.
Wow.
You know, I moved here in
crazy.
83, and I actually made my first trek to Nashville. I was sweet on this musician while I was still in high school. I was a junior in high school, and I came here to visit her, and she didn't like me back quite as much as I liked her, and that worked out okay. We're still friends, and we still see each other all the time. But so I've been coming here since 1974, and this place, it has everything I could ever dream about and want. It's a community of creative people, of songwriters, of musicians, of all those things. Oklahoma, my home state has it in small pockets, but to the level of what this is, it's just so inspiring to be here.
Right.
You know, I've got my mom and my sis left, and that's about it, and our family. And I get back as often as I could. The last year and a half, almost 2 years now, has been crazy. You know,
Sure.
with all of the pandemic and everything. So
Yeah.
the only 2 times I've gotten to come home in the last year and a half were for the passing of 3 special people in my life.
That's unfortunate. I'm
Yeah.
sorry that is why you had to get back to Oklahoma.
Well, whatever reason it is, it's still good. You know, it's
Yeah.
great to see my sweet mama. She's 96. My big sis, my protector. She, you know, it's just, you know, it brings you back to where it always takes you back to where you're really you're the most solid.
Yeah. How do you think Oklahoma has helped shape who you are as a person and as an artist?
Well, I would think greatly. You know, I admire where I'm from. I admire the people from where I'm from. I think that it's hard country. It's hard to make a living out of that dirt. You know, and you got farmers. You got so many ways that people did what they did to get by, and then you go back to 100 years to the Dust Bowl and how they migrated out west and found a way to scrape and get by. And I like their work ethic. You know, they're no nonsense. They're very common sense minded, and it's an area of the country that's not really steeped in a tradition of being from the South or being from out west or being from the North or any of those things. And it's just this. I mean, all the way through there, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and all that. That's that center part of the world that I like better. But I think all the people are kind of right there in the center. They're not so extreme left and right, and just a lot of good-hearted, common-sense people.
I'm from Missouri originally, and as I've taken on Shannon's little phrase, but I'm an Oklahoma by choice now. And we do. It's a thing. And my husband and I moved here, and we have a daughter here now, so she's a first generation Oklahoman. And I agree. I love her growing up in this area with these type of people. They're real, you know. And I mean, I agree with Missouri too, the same thing. But Oklahomans are unique, and I love them.
Well, you know what I've found is all the perceptions that people have about people from other parts of the world. They're all wrong.
Yeah.
You know, there's great people everywhere you go. Doesn't matter where you go. You know, once you start generalizing and having this perception on what something is, I think you're generally going to be misfiring pretty badly. Good people everywhere.
Yeah, true. Well, let's talk about your start and the music career.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Shannon.
No, I just said we have more in common for sure.
Oh, yes. Let's talk about your start in music career. What initially inspired you to become a musician? Where did you get that desire to share your gift?
Well, there was quite a few musicians in my family. My dad played a little bit. He played the banjo some, and he played the guitar a little bit. My mom could play a couple tunes on the harmonica. My dad's mother was a really fine piano player. And my dad had an uncle that played. And so there was always music around. We were always listening to it. We were always going somewhere to have a gathering, you know, out at one of the little dance halls, or people would get up and play or jam or whatever. And I just don't remember a time when there wasn't music. You know, I couldn't say I started playing the guitar at 6 or 3 or whatever. I have a picture of me sleeping face down on a couch with my arm around a little parlor guitar, you know, so I don't remember a time that I wasn't banging on one. I think I went over and played I got around on it early on and had a knack for it, I guess, but I went over to Cleveland Elementary School and played for the school, and I think in 2nd or 3rd grade, I can't remember what grade it was, and I played a song called The House of the Rising Sun.
Great song.
Probably not appropriate song for 2nd and 3rd graders, but
Maybe
anyway,
not.
I knew it, and the die was cast. I knew what my future was going to be, playing these wild songs, you know. And then I played at a War Acres fire station opening when I was about that age, 2nd or 3rd grade. My dad let me play in a little band he kind of had together that played at this little place in Prague, Oklahoma. They had a parade. It was called the Kolache Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, and him and his buddy JB and his two kids and a man named Mr. Wolf. We got on a flatbed truck, and I was just sitting on a hay bale out of the way, just chunking away with him, And so I don't, like I said, I don't remember a time that I wasn't playing. And then I got into junior high school, and we were playing at the dances, playing in rock bands, and my buddy Benny and I, we played together. We met in summer of 6th grade, and we were inseparable and stayed inseparable our whole lives. And he just passed away a year and a half ago, and that killed me. And I got into high school, started playing some bluegrass, and somebody made the mistake of paying me to play music, and it was game over.
That was that.
It wasn't much.
You paid to do
It might have been $10, $20, whatever it was. But I said, man, if somebody will pay me to do this, I'm in. So I didn't have a conscious thought of going to college. And not the probably the way that you would see most people go. It probably didn't look very smart. And somebody asked my mom many years later, after I'd had some success, and I asked her, did it bother you that your kid kind of went off the beaten path, didn't go to college, didn't get a real job, didn't do all the things that you're kind of supposed to do? And she goes, no, never bothered me one bit. And I said, how come? She said, I didn't care about having a rich kid, but I did care about having a happy kid.
Oh,
And so
those are
those
pretty powerful.
words to live by.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the fact that in those years, in those early years of figuring my way out, and they'd let me go play in the bars and stay out till 2 a.m. if I could just barely get by in high school, and I did. And it was powerful that they weren't, kind of always kind of discouraging me from doing that. That was, I didn't realize it at the time, but over a lifetime, it was beautiful to not have that kind of thing against you.
Then, I mean, it's so hard to break into this industry anyways, and to then not have to be essentially fighting your own family in the process, and to have that support the entire time is, I'm sure, monumental. Do you feel like you had a lucky break, or was there something that changed the trajectory of your career that made it what it is now?
Not really. I never have looked, it'd be real easy to look at the 90s and go, you had all these hits, you won all these awards, sold all these records, and go, wow, that was the deal. But at 16, 17, I made my first record with a band called Mountain Smoke. Yeah. And lo and behold, they played it on the radio one day. I heard it, and I was driving down the Interstate 40 there, close to downtown, and I heard it, and it, all of a sudden it changed my life.
How did that feel? What went through your head?
Just like, I can do this. It's gave you a little bit of hope. And that's all a kid needs. Somebody to believe in them a little bit and give them a little hope, and they won't disappoint you. And so everywhere I went, I felt successful. Even at 18, I was living in Kentucky, but I was in a band with Ricky Skaggs, who's arguably one of the best bluegrass musicians that's ever lived. So even at 18, I was playing with the very, very best of the best. A year later, I took a job with the great Byron Berline, who just passed away this summer. He hired me to come to California at 19 and said, come be in my band. And what that unfolded for me, and the people I met and the things I got to do were unbelievable, so yeah, those days, they felt every bit as successful as these days do. There wasn't the point where, once again, it wasn't the results that was my definition of what I had accomplished. For where I was, what I was doing felt like a pretty good thing. And I was never afraid. I was never, if I don't have a hit record, it's going to be, I'm going to have failed. I never felt like failure at any point, and still don't. I make records now, but I can't prove it because nobody's got them. But I'm still making them, and I love it.
Everything's digital.
Yeah, and so that's all okay, And I'm, I look back on my creative life, my professional life, and I'm a pretty grateful guy, that I never had to sell my instruments, go get a real job, move back home, or kind of, go that way, because I put the effort in, and I got to be a decent enough musician that I could play with most anybody. And so that gave me this really great footing to go, well, even if I don't have hits, still go play with these guys or those guys, you know. So
That's so true.
it's all good.
Yeah, I mean, you hear about there's so many behind the scenes, you know, of the music industry and people that are still super successful. But we just did in one of these interviews with Scott Hendricks, and you know, same thing, got inducted this year into the Hall of Fame, and is one of the producers for Blake Shelton and a number of other country artists. And yeah, I mean, super successful career, but doesn't sing himself. So there's so many aspects of the music world.
Sure. And
Yeah.
once again, it's that old adage: if you don't care who gets the credit, there's a lot of people that do
Right.
what it is that creates all of that. You know, it does take a village to
Yeah.
launch somebody. You know, and there's a lot of people that don't get any credit that deserve it. You know,
Yeah.
and Scott would be one of those.
You know,
Yeah. Nice guy.
I real quick, you know, you're so calm. And is this is, I know we've only known each other for like the last 5 years or so, but has this always been because you have such an attitude of gratitude and you have such a calming presence. And that's what I remember about you being at the Hall of Fame and just all of our panic and what are we going to do? And you going, hey, I got this. And has this always been who you are? Is that part of how you attribute some of your success?
Yeah, I've long kind of flown by the seat of my pants, and I'm okay with that. You know, it's okay to me. What I think I'm really good at is living in the moment, just the moment that I have. And the past is gone, tomorrow's not promised, and you better find a way to make peace with this stretch you're in right now. And I always was. You know, you'd have to go ask a lot of friends that I knew when I was 16, when I was 19, when I was 25. And I think pretty much across the board, I go, he's same old knucklehead, you know, just easy going and, you know, get mad when I play golf, but everybody does. So other than that, I'm okay.
Yeah, I hear you're a really good golfer.
You know, some days.
Some
I
days.
played forever. I played as much golf as I did music and had a great love for it. I loved athletics and was decent at most sports and not a world beater by any means, but loved it and had a knack for it. So golf is the one thing I could still do after a few knee surgeries and back doesn't act up and whatnot. So
Someone just wrote in, a lady named Kelly, and said that her friend John Sanford actually played golf with you once and said you're a really nice guy and really good.
some people will come up to me and said, I played golf with you once. And I said, well, that could have been really good or really bad.
Did you have fun? That's the whole point, right?
Yeah, I mean, I even have fun when I'm mad, you know, which is
That's
weird.
rare, especially in golf.
I mean, it's because that's what the game does to you. You know, it's a frustrating game always. Even when you play great, you could have played a little bit better. And even when you play bad, you could have played a little bit worse. So it's kind of beautiful in a sense because it's such a moving target, you know, every time you tee it up. And I've still got buddies that I played grade school golf with that live there in the city, Jimmy Woodward, and we used to play against each other when we were kids. And he went on to play on tour and was really great. He wore me out the whole time we played together.
Well, I'm trying to find the actual name of it now because I know I read about it earlier. Don't you have a nonprofit that's related to golf that you help do, or a charity game?
Evidently, I'm a nonprofit. Yeah, I did a charity event here for 27 years called the Vinny, and it was just where I grew up in the city. That the junior golf program was so supportive of kids playing golf. If you were a junior golfer, and we were playing competitive matches, I think in second or third grade, we'd play these 9-hole matches and shoot a score. And if you shot the low score, you'd get your name in the paper the next day. And my buddy Woody would always shoot 36, I'd shoot 37. He'd shoot 39, I'd shoot 40. But I got my name in the paper next to him every now and then. That was fun. But if you were a junior golfer back then, you could play any municipal course for either 50 cents or 75 cents was your green fee. And as a kid, my mom could say, here's $2, buy yourself a hamburger at lunchtime and I'll pick you up at dark. And man, that's about as cheap a babysitter as you could ever find. And,
For real.
and so I spent most of my days playing 45 holes of golf a day or fishing or whatever. And it was a great experience. And so I wanted to do for golf here what I experienced. I think that's the kind of the point of a lot of this philanthropy type stuff is go leave this place better than you found it, and treat people the way they treated you. And so we have one of the premier junior golf programs in the country here in Tennessee. And I
That's
don't know how
incredible.
much we've raised, about $10 million over the years
Wow.
for junior golf in the state, and it's been awesome.
I love it.
Proud of it.
That's super incredible. I love that. So I have another question that was written in. Let me find it real fast. From Anna, I think it's Layton. I'm sorry if I pronounced your last name correctly or incorrectly. Says that she's been a big fan of yours, especially since you've been touring with the Eagles. So we're going to talk about that now. And she wants to know if you're working on any new music with that.
I just do what I'm told with them. I'm the new guy. I'm still the new guy at 64. But no, I don't know that I see, they haven't made a new record in a lot of years, and I don't see them making a record. They might surprise me. We did a live record of us playing at the Forum a couple years back, and that's out. So I'm proud that there's something recorded that I'm a part of that really proves I did it, But I'll just take my cues from Don and Joe and Timmy and do what they ask, and it's been an amazing experience, but in my mind, the only reason that it's a great experience is sadly because of a tragedy of the passing of Glenn, and he was a dear friend of mine, and I probably knew him best of the Eagle guys, and so that's the only reason I'm getting to do it. I don't pretend to have had anything to do with what they did or what they accomplished, and I just get to sing some of the best songs that have ever been written, and play with one of my heroes, and Joe Walsh on the guitar. And so it's a neat thing to have happen at this point in my life. I'm in the later stages of my career, and to just the mere fact that they asked me to do it is like the greatest compliment I could ever hope to have ever gotten. It kind of feels like all that hard work for the last 50 years you've done is kind of showed itself here. Doesn't matter when it shows itself. Someday it will, if you do the work. And I've had a blast doing it. They asked Don Henley. I heard him in an interview. Somebody said, "Why the country guy? Why'd you get the country guy to be in a rock band?" And he said, "Well, he knows how to be in a band. He's about the one guy I thought of that would be a good fit. And the way I play and sing, all that stuff makes perfect sense.
Your voice, you have a unique voice. You've talked about that. You do have a very special voice.
Well, thank you. And it's odd singing iconic songs that Glenn sang, or Randy Meisner sang, and because they're so iconic, I don't want to hear me sing them. And I'm sure there's a lot of fans that don't mind that I'm singing them, but there's a lot that go, man, I just want to hear Glenn sing that song. I just want to hear Randy sing that song. That was his song. And I get that, and I don't have any problems with the slings and arrows that I sometimes take from being in the band and singing some of those songs. And it's just out of my hands of what has happened and what it is from this moment forward.
So do you try to put your own spin on it then, or do you try to keep it as original as possible?
I try to keep it just straight down the middle, just like those records are so iconic. If you heard Hotel California and heard the solo at the end different than the one you've listened to for 45 years, you'd walk away a little bit disappointed. Now, if those songs weren't so iconic, go ahead and have some fun with them. But no, I sing them pretty much as they were and as they are. It's not I don't think it's my place to try to, I think it'd be egotistical to say, hey, I'm gonna sing this in a brand new way, and you look like an idiot. But so I keep it pretty close to the vest.
What's been your favorite experience with them so far? You guys are on tour. I know you're on a break right now, and are you planning to tour again soon? I'm assuming.
Well, yeah, we're gonna start up again in mid-February. I think the gift for me is the education of how important songs are. Once again, at my age, there's a reason those guys are those guys, and it's right there in front of you. It's the songs. Those songs are so great, so iconic, so well written, so well arranged, recorded. Every part is important. There's no loose ends. There's no extra stuff. It's all just as it should be. And that's what's amazing, is to sit there night after night and look at that set list and go, look what these boys showed up with. You know,
Yeah.
I asked Don at one point when I first got to playing with him, I said, "What's the first song you and Glenn ever wrote?" And he smiled and he said, "Desperado." And I said,
Oh,
"I'm not
wow.
buying it. I'm not buying it. You had to write some lame songs." He laughed. He goes, "No, that was the first song we ever wrote." And that's so emotional to me, to hear every night and realize that when those two guys got together and wrote their first song, that was it. You know,
That's incredible.
That's some meant to be stuff.
Yeah,
I'm having a ball.
that's awesome. Well, talking about collaborations and working with other people, one of our staff members, Jenny, asked me to ask you about opening for Kiss.
That was one of the great experiences of life. You know, we didn't know it was going to happen. We got a call at like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and somebody had canceled that was opening for them. And I was still in high school, Oklahoma City, when this happened, and
Wow.
so you know, they said, "We need a band down here. We got a show tonight," and the band canceled. And I said, "Okay," so we called a few guys, got enough knuckleheads to make up a bluegrass band and go down there and play. And so
Where did you go? Which were you?
Civic Center.
Civic Center. Okay.
Civic Center, and I drove by the marquee, and they're right there on the marquee. It says, "Appearing tonight, Kiss." And I went, "What?" You know, this.
So you didn't know who you were opening for?
We didn't. And I said, "Well, surely that we're not opening for them. We got to be playing in the basement for a Shriners convention or something. I don't know what." But lo and behold, we went out there and tried to open for Kiss in our little bluegrass band, and that was the most hatred I've ever seen pointed at 4 or 5 guys just out there playing some music, and it was so funny to have them so mad, and they were all booing as loud as they could, and we only lasted about 3 songs, then we were booed off stage.
Wow.
Pretty funny. I wound up meeting those guys years later, guys in Kiss. And
That's good times.
That's hilarious. So your advice to anyone that's starting in music is, it doesn't even matter if you get booed off stage, because look what can happen.
Yeah. It was only up from there.
That is a good way to look at it.
Yeah. Shannon, I want you to ask our next question. So Shannon's husband is a teacher in a grade school, and the kids in his class have a question for you.
Okay.
They want to know, Mr. Kerr's class in Kansas, Oklahoma, want to know, who is your favorite current artist, or who do you think is carrying the country mantle now?
I think the most undeniable talent out there right now is Chris Stapleton. He's
pretty incredible.
You know, sadly the industry sometimes can be very much about how someone looks, you know, and whether you're fit, whether you're thin. I've always battled my weight and always been up and down, and Chris has too. He's a big boy, but his voice is so undeniable. That's what's beautiful about it, was, you know, all these things that would probably go against you in a sense, you know. It didn't matter. He sang one night with Justin on the awards, Justin Timberlake, and the whole world went, "Okay, game over."
Yeah.
That's about the best singing I've ever heard in my whole life. And I just think he's a world-class singer and writes great songs, and he's a great man. You know, he's a good friend. He's a humble guy, and he's really, really shy, you know, which surprised me that it surprised me that I know he looks kind of gruff with a big beard and all that, but he's a teddy bear guy and just a tender-hearted guy and really, really shy. Not a better guy in the world.
One of my favorite songs, I'm a big Pink fan, and I love their duet that they did together that she wrote. It's one of my favorite songs.
Yeah. He's the real deal. He's the real deal.
Well, we are wrapping up. I just have a few more questions for you. Kind of want to talk about what's next in your career, what's next in your life. Do you have anything going on that you're super excited about that maybe isn't even music related, or what's going on?
Well, you know, I don't plan much. You know, I like to react to life, and I don't keep much of a calendar. I just answer the phone when it rings, and you never knew who was going to be on the other end, you know, and so I don't do a lot of planning. I just like the moment I'm in. And I mean, I have in my head, I've got records I want to make. I've got songs I want to write. I've got all that kind of pre-planned in there. But all in all, I'm just going to kind of wait and see what unfolds, and you just never know what's going to be on the other end of a phone line. So
Sure.
good or bad, so no big plans, just continue to keep doing what I'm doing.
Cool. Sometimes it's Shannon asking you to do this.
That's right.
What advice would you give to, we have a lot of young professionals on today, since this was semi-planned by our young professional board. What would you tell them about trying to reach their goals in life and staying the course?
Well, I mean, I think it's important. I think it's important to have a star to point towards, not a person, but I just mean that more, in a mindset than something physical. But, and, you'd be amazed at how much luckier you get the more you practice. If you really put in the work, it'll make you think you're a lot luckier than you are. And I think that for me, what's really cool, as I look back on having done this for 50 years, professionally and playing out, and I'd be doing it no matter what. The results were never how much I made or how well I did. The results were just doing it. There's Luke Combs got a really cool new song called "If I wasn't doing this, I'd be doing this." And it's a real neat testament to how I feel. I even if I'd stayed at home and played, in a Holiday Inn 6 nights a week, I probably would have done it. Had I not tried and gone out there and I will tell you that it won't come and get you. Whatever you're wanting to do, especially in a creative world, in the music world, I think you have to show up where it's happening at. They're not going to come and find you. It's different now than it used to be. Now we can all be on the internet and go get on YouTube and find people and rabbit holes and find all kinds of artists. And I do it to this day. I'll just go off, oh, there's a great guitar player, and hear him play more and more, and I'll find a great singer, and I don't know who that is. And we didn't have that when we were kids. We had to listen to the records and figure it out in the air and go play all the clubs, go play all the places, and get discovered that way. So maybe that advice is a little archaic in a sense, because people can find you because of technology. And, I know there's still an element of work involved. You have to put in the time and work. I mean, you don't just open your mouth and are a great singer. You have to work at it. Same with writing songs or playing an instrument. There's that theory of 10,000 hours. You got to put in 10,000 hours in whatever your chosen profession is, and once you get all those hours put in, you're going to generally be pretty good at what you're doing. Repetition is a great thing. Hard work is a great thing. And I really only apply to hard work when it comes to music. Anything else, no, I'm not a hard worker. Well, I like always ending these sessions with what I call rapid fire. So I just have some quick questions, whatever comes top of your head, and we're going to wrap up after that. Okay. This could be dangerous.
They're not super deep. I will say that. So first, describe yourself in 5 words.
Always try to be kind.
I love that. It's a sentence.
Is that 5 or 6?
5.
Hey, winner.
Good job.
Ding, 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 ding.
Are you a morning or an evening person?
Both. So
you get up early and you stay up late?
Yeah.
Okay.
Musicians
You're like my
stay
husband.
up late. And I'm a golfer, so you got to make tea time. So
that's true. Good point. What's your favorite food?
Ted's Escondido.
Ooh.
Whoa, wasn't expecting that.
You're from
call out.
It's the only place I eat when I come home to visit my mom and sis.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh. Okay. What is your favorite Oklahoma sports team?
Oh, man, that's brutal. The 89ers.
No.
The 89ers are the Blazers.
Okay.
We don't have the Blazers anymore, do we?
I don't think so.
Hockey
We
team.
need to get you back for some updated team information.
I know. I know
Yeah.
you got the Thunder. I know you got Oklahoma
Yeah.
University and Oklahoma State. That was a great Bedlam game last Saturday, and team
Just
that
depends
you
on
know.
what you're setting.
Yeah, I know, but the thing is, I root for all of Oklahoma,
Well
and I
said.
thought, you know, it's cool that State's going to win because they stand a better chance of maybe getting to the national championship if they were to win, and OU
Sure.
probably wouldn't have with 2 losses, so it was okay.
And no coach.
They're kids playing a game.
I know.
Yeah, well, yeah, I saw all that. That was
Another
shocking.
conversation.
Yeah. What's your favorite color?
Black.
I like it.
A friend of mine told me this without black there would be no. Forgot. It was Maya Angelou. She told me this, and it was so powerful. And now I've forgotten it. But
Wow, you got to meet Maya Angelou?
yeah, she liked.
Wow.
She was a big fan of Go Rest High on That Mountain, and
Oh, yeah.
she tracked me down. She was speaking here in Nashville, and she called and said, "Would you come down and meet me?"
Yeah.
She said, "Your song helped me get through the loss of my brother."
Oh,
Oh, wow.
So that was cool.
That's amazing. What's the regret in your life? Do you have one?
Oh, plenty, but I guess my regret would be if I didn't learn something from the mistakes I made. Would be a good way to look at regret, because you're going to make mistakes, and your kids are going to make mistakes. You're a parent, and you go, "Hey, they're not going to learn anything until they screw something up." So,
Yeah.
that would be it.
First concert you attended?
Chet Atkins.
Nice. And last question. Best advice you've ever been given. Who gave it to you?
Oh gosh. Best advice. I was on a session as a young musician, and it was my turn to play solo, and I started playing, and I finished, and I played a whole, a lot of stuff, and producer came on the talk back, and he said, "That was really good." He goes, "Let's try it again." He said, "This time, just play me half of what you know." So the lesson was to be willing to edit, to be willing to say the most with the least. And I've kind of tried to make that a mantra ever since, just say the most with the least in whatever you can do.
Love it. Wonderful. Well, I can't thank you enough for spending this hour with us today over our lunch. You are
Yeah.
an incredible icon for Oklahoma, and just thank you so much for spending this time with us.
All right, man. I enjoyed it. I hope everybody
absolutely.
got their questions answered.
We had lots in, and we have lots of people saying hi and thank you for joining today in the chat. So
All
I
right.
think everyone enjoyed it.
All right, everybody be safe.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Vince. Thank you
Bye,
so
Shannon.
much.
Thank you, dear.
Bye, everyone.
Have a great day.